All right, welcome back to the channel. So in this video, we're going to talk about Danny Swift Garcia, Yordenis Ugas, Errol Spence, Terrence Crawford, and the rest of the welterweight division, and specifically the fact that Angel Garcia said that Danny Garcia will be fighting for a championship either later part this year or next year, or the early next year, which tells you exactly who it is he's got to be planning to fight. Let's talk about that and the ramifications of that in this video. All right, welcome back to the channel. Now, before I get into the subject matter of the video, please make sure to, if you're not subscribed, to subscribe to the channel and like the video, share the video, because it really does go a great way towards a great distance towards growing the channel. So let's talk about this. Danny Garcia is a former 147-pound champion. He held the WBC belt, and he is a former 140-pound unified champion. And his father, Angel Garcia, who's also his trainer, said that Danny Garcia will be fighting for a championship this year, late part this year or early part next year. And when he says that, it makes it pretty clear who he's talking about, and also as a result kind of lays out the landscape for the welterweight division. I believe the welterweight division, I don't think it's likely that it's in the 154-pound division, but it lays out the landscape of how we could come to, an undisputed title at 147. Now, when he says that he being Angel Garcia says his son is going to be fighting for a world championship in this year, you have to stop and look, and say, okay, who could he be talking about? If you look at 154, because there was talks of Danny Garcia moving up to 154, is it likely at all that Danny Garcia is going to win a championship or have an opportunity to fight for a championship at 154 pounds this year? Absolutely not. Because first is that it is there may be the champions up there may have one more fight this year, because it is the month of July. So you have July, August, September, October, November, December. You'd have probably a quick turnaround. If they have a quick turnaround for Castano or for Jermell Charlo, that they have mandatory title defenses that they have to adhere to. The mandatory, my understanding is, for Brian Castano is Tim Tszyu out of Australia, which would be a lucrative fight for Brian Castano. And then there is the guy for the IBF whose name, excuse me, I'm not going to dog in this video, but there's an IBF mandatory for Jermell Charlo that he's supposed to take before the Brian Castano fight. And if for some reason those mandatories don't get into the way, then Brian Castano and Jermell Charlo would more than likely have another fight for undisputed, because the last one that they had is a draw. So if Angel Garcia, and Angel Garcia is not, he's just not throwing stuff out there willy-nilly, is talking about getting a fight for Danny Garcia for a championship in this year or early part of next year, most likely he's not talking about the 147-pound division. He obviously also is more than likely not talking about Terrence Crawford, because Terrence Crawford's got a mandatory fight for him against Sean Porter. So that championship for the WBO is out of the way. Then you have Errol Spence Jr., who Danny Garcia lost to in his last fight, who has two of the other belts, the WBC and the IBF. So that doesn't seem very likely. So what seems most likely is that it would be a shot against Yordenis Ugas for the WBA title. The WBA title, which, by the way, is not on the line when Manny Pacquiao fights Errol Spence Jr., because even though that was requested of the WBA said no, and they left Manny Pacquiao as the champion in recess, and they left Yordenis Ugas with the WBA super title. So that right there tells you that, it's not going to be the IBF or the WBA is actually available for Yordenis Ugas to fight. So more than likely, the only not more than likely, the only guy that doesn't have a date or somebody is Yordenis Ugas, which is the regular, which is not the, excuse me, it's the WBA super title. And that is the championship I think that they are talking about, because that's the only one that makes sense. And it is a fight that Danny Garcia can definitely win from Yordenis Ugas. It is a fight that would get and I actually favor Danny Garcia to beat Yordenis Ugas in that championship fight, and for him to get the belt back, which sets him up, I do believe, for one of two things. You either have a fight where he could fight the winner of the Porter Crawford for a unification fight, or he can fight the winner of Errol Spence Jr. versus Manny Pacquiao for that combination of championships, for actually it would be 3 belts. But seeing as they've already or 2 belts, not 3 belts, excuse me, 2 belts. But seeing as Danny Garcia already fought Errol Spence Jr., I don't think that would be the next step. So essentially what it's turning out to look like to me is that they are trying to set up a bit of a tournament to get to undisputed at 147 pounds, where the Terrence Crawford, Sean Porter winner could face Danny Garcia, Yordenis Ugas winner. And that also answers a lot of questions for Terrence Crawford, because Terrence Crawford, in order to do that, has to beat two top welterweights back to back in order to get that the unified title. And if Terrence Crawford has a unified title, that makes the fight between the winner of Errol Spence Jr. and Manny Pacquiao, a 2-belt holder. The winner of that mini tournament that would go on with Danny Garcia, Yordenis Ugas, Sean Porter, and Terrence Crawford, make them a 2-belt champion. And then the combination of it is you get a fight for undisputed, which I think that Fox Sports would probably really want to have, and that Danny Garcia, and I don't even think Terrence Crawford would complain about taking those matchups, because that really, because the ultimate goal, I do think, or the ultimate way that I think is going to turn out is, I think that Errol Spence Jr. is going to beat Manny Pacquiao, and then he's going to be undisputed, and then you're going to have the other undisputed fight take place around the same time, and that be in the November time frame of both Sean Porter, Terrence Crawford, and Yordenis Ugas and Danny Garcia, and that the combination of those fights could be done somewhere in the second half, like in maybe the second half of 2022. You could have an undisputed title fight at 147. The only hiccup in that being that Errol Spence Jr. said that he wanted to get Terrence Crawford and the WBO belt, right after the Manny Pacquiao fight. And if he can't get that fight next, then he wants to move up to 154 pounds. But I bet that if they did this through, that Errol Spence Jr. will most likely stay a little bit longer in the weight class to see if to get an opportunity to get undisputed. So all in all, I like it. I know I'm extrapolating from what Angel Garcia said, but I don't know what else he could possibly mean, because he was very definite when he said he was going to get the fight either the late part this year or early part of next year. That seems like you already have a fight in mind, and that you're just looking for the fight date. So that's my take on that situation. You let me know what you think. And with that, I'm out. Peace.